Is there anything off the table before we?
What do you mean, like off the table?
Like,
what the hell are you going to ask stupid?
I don't know. You never know.
Yeah, you never know.
Okay, so we'll get started.
Okay.
Well, hello, race fans, and welcome to another one of our driver spotlight interviews. This interview is brought to you by Schaefer's Oil. Schaefer's Oil has been providing specialized lubricants for over 175 years. Motor oil, hydraulic fluid, diesel fuel additives, industrial lubricants, grease, chain lubes, and degreasers are all available from Schaefer's. So whether you need lubricants for racing, farm, home, or industrial, get a hold of our buddy Bob Rigg and let him get you the right product for the right lubrication need. Into this episode, we're kind of mixing it up just a little bit. As you can see, we have two guests. Here we have Kenny Carmichael, driver of the number 92C Dirt Car Modified, and we also have his wife, Peggy Carmichael. Kenny has raced for many, many years, while Peggy has found herself working as an official at many of those races. So I'm looking forward to hearing from both of them. I think this is going to be really interesting, and I'm glad that you tuned in to check it out, and I'm excited to have this opportunity. So, Kenny, Peggy, welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you guys for sitting down, taking some time with us. How you guys been doing?
All right. Ready for this winter to be over with.
A lot ready.
The winter doesn't seem to want to go away.
No.
I like 89 degrees.
Yeah.
Well, you guys have been a major part of racing in the Illinois-Indiana area for quite some time, but there might be some people that don't know who you are or know anything about you. So let's start off with you, Peggy. Who you are, a little bit about you, hobbies, hometown, interests, all that.
Hobbies is actually, as you all know, racing. I live and breathe racing. As I was growing up, we lived on a farm. We had horses. We went to Lincoln Park one night. I was 13, 14 years old, and there was a sign on a car saying for sale. So my dad and his buddy went to the pits, and neither to say, he bought the car so he could drive it that night in the future. Well, he wrecked it. I had no trailer. None of us knew anything about it, and they pulled it home with a chain and a pickup truck from Lincoln Park to Brazil. And that's where it was. Dad said he could park the car, didn't have to feed it with the horses we had to feed all the time and take care of them. So we went from one horse to other horses. And then we've been in racing all that time. My brother raced. My dad raced. My daughter's husband races. My brother's daughter raced. I mean, it's all
intertwined, just like anything else. Ronnie that raced over there at Charleston, that's my daughter's father-in-law. A lot of people don't know that. A lot of people don't even know we got a daughter because they race over here and we go to Illinois and race. But kind of convert them.
Yeah. And we met at the racetrack.
Yeah. My dad raced, her dad raced, then my dad became the flagman. Her dad was the pit steward. And then how we got our first date was I was going racing. I didn't care about going to girls or anything. We had race cars. And that's just the way Dad taught us. If he was going to race, you're going to work on the stuff. And we was going to go race at Peggy, Indiana. She had invited us to a birthday party, and it's like, hey, we might let you know. And then we got rained out. So we came to Terre Haute, came to a birthday party, and her and her brother and her brother's girlfriend at the time decided we was going to the movies. So we went to the movies. She paid her own way in because I wasn't.
And don't ask what the movie was.
I didn't consider it was a date. So we went to the movies. So got home and Dad said, what'd you guys do? I went to the movie. Did you pay? No, I didn't pay. It wasn't a date.
Yeah. No, he made me pay.
That was the end of it. So, or the start of it, not the end of it.
And then he would drive from Bloomington, Indiana, all the way to Terre Haute, almost
every Thursday night to bowl in a bowling league with her. And then on Fridays, I'd come over and spend all weekend. And then when we raced, I would drive from Bloomington to race at Putnamville on Friday night, go back home, or actually come to her house and stay all weekend. We'd go to race Saturday night and then go race Sunday night. And then I'd go back to Bloomington on Sunday and go to school because I was in high school.
How long did that court and go?
2 years.
Well, when we started dating.
You were 16.
Yeah, I was 16. And then we got married on the night of my senior prom.
Really?
My best man wore the same tux to our wedding to the senior prom. And no, we didn't have to get married. Nobody, there was no kids involved.
So is this a question for you or her? How long have you been married?
44 years. It'll be 44 in May.
44 in May.
years.
But the best part was my honeymoon was the racetrack.
No.
Because,
Our rehearsal night was on Friday night. My dad flagged. Her dad was the pit man. We took the race cars to the church with us, went through all the rehearsal, and then left and went to the racetrack and raced. And then got married on Saturday. And then we went on our honeymoon and then came back home to go race Sunday.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's always been that way.
We didn't race on Saturday.
No,
we went to Browns
didn't race.
County.
Her brother did. Her brother went racing on Saturday.
Yeah, my brother did.
But we didn't.
Yeah.
So.
That was my honeymoon, was
So
the
you
racetrack.
had your rehearsal on Friday, went racing Friday night,
Yes.
got married on Saturday, went on your honeymoon Saturday night, and then came back and raced on Sunday.
Yep. Sure did.
So racing has pretty much been it.
That's pretty much all we do. Every now and then I get to go to an auction, or I throw a fit.
That's what we do in the winter months. We go to auctions so she can buy little things for the house, or says to buy to resell, but they never get resold. Never get resold.
I only buy things that I like.
You met at the racetrack. Did you get married at a racetrack?
No,
Okay.
no, we got married at a church.
Well, we've had one of them.
Yeah, oh yeah. No, we got married at a church.
Got married at a real church.
Yeah, we wasn't going to be that bad.
Oh.
So yeah.
We got married in 1982, and Crystal was born in 83, which is our daughter, and then Kenny Jr. was born in 85.
Yeah, so you have 2 kids. Tell me about your kids.
Well, you know the one.
Yeah, but everybody else might not.
They do. They know him.
Junior's the baby.
Yeah.
Yeah, that growing up, and it's still to this day, it's the old way of doing things and kind of the new way of doing things, and they kind of bat heads. They're both a lot alike, but they bat heads a lot, and they'll scream and holler and carry on. And I just let it go until I had enough. Then I go out, and then when they know that I'm upset with them and use a few choice words,
Our
kind of
daughter
goes.
always wanted to race, and when we started racing, her brother was real about it. There was some girls that raced, and they were just treated bad because they were girls. They didn't want to get outran by a girl. Instead of just putting a helmet on and going, there are people racing. They wanted, oh no, that's a girl. You got outran by a girl. So I told her, it's like, no, you're never going to do this. She's ran powder puffs and stuff, but she's more probably ate up with the racing than he ever thought about being, because she wants her husband to go race all the time, and he's not one of them who wants to go race all the time. So we're actually, he's kind of being forced into putting a modified together this year, because he's got an Indiana street stock, and where he races at, they don't race every week. And she called me. She goes, Dad, I want to buy that modified you guys got. And I'm like, no, you can just take it and we can put stuff together if he wants to help buy it and try something different. So
she was really ate up with racing, but didn't get an opportunity to drive.
No, she ran some powder puffs. So she always wanted to drive a powder puff. But
just because of the difference in the era?
Yeah, because like I said, the way the guys thought at that time and stuff like that.
She says it's because she doesn't have the right equipment.
Yeah, well.
Is the reason why she never got to the race.
So you guys met at a racetrack. You said your whole family races. So when you brought this racer home to meet the family, they didn't think anything of it.
No, they already knew
Yeah,
him.
they knew me, knew my dad. Stuff like that. So.
And my dad really liked him because some of the guys that I dated before he didn't like. So
you would show up and you go, "Oh, you're still around," and it's like, wow. But he would do some of the dumbest, well, not the dumbest stuff, just shit that he knew he'd do. I come walking in and he'd chew tobacco. So I get out of the car and go walking up the back porch. He'd come down every time and he'd go, "Hey," and throw and natural instinct to catch it. Well, you know what you caught? A big old chunk of red man. So.
So I mean, when somebody's watching this, it might not be around Valentine's Day, but right now it is Valentine's Day. So I'm going to ask you a question.
What's that?
You started dating her when you were 16. When did you know Peggy was the girl?
Probably within I don't know. Like I said, we dated, and then I think I asked
after
you.
we started.
I think I asked you to marry me like on Christmas of my senior year in high school.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Of course, back then that wasn't that odd or peculiar either.
No.
Marry that.
Yeah. No.
No.
Peg, what was it that he did for you that made you know he was the guy?
The racing and the way, besides all the other, he does have a very kind heart.
She's not telling you the truth. She actually liked my little brother more. But
Him and his
but
little
that
brother
didn't-
and I used to
yeah.
run around together at the track because he was always sitting watching the cars into the cars, and we was always out running around and meeting the other drivers.
But that didn't work out.
His
he wasn't
little brother
interested.
was
So yeah, he wasn't interested either. So yeah.
So when did you actually start racing? I know your dad raced.
1979. I was 14 years old.
Okay.
Dad, at that time, Dad was still wanting to race. He raced in 70, 73 and up. In 76, he won a bunch of races. 77, he raced. 78, he was building a new car. And then they contacted him about flagging at Lincoln Park. And so that car just set. And he come home one day, and we had an old 4-door Oldsmobile Cutlass. And back then they was called Thunder cars, which is basically actually lower class than what the factory stock is now. And we started knocking the windows out of it, putting the roll cage and stuff in it. So he's like, "What are you doing?" It's like, we want to do this. So he said, "Okay, go ahead and do it." So my grandpa pulled the car to the track and stuff. And for the first month, I go out and I qualify, and one night we were sitting at home eating supper, and he's like, "How do you qualify almost the same time all the time?" And I'm like, 55 miles an hour on the speedometer. So he knocked the speedometer out of the car, and then we didn't know what to do. So I raced that car for probably another 3 or 4 nights and decided that I was going to do it. So we went and bought an old Chevelle, and he paid to put a cage in it, and then that became where we just kept stepping up and stepping up.
Stepping up through the ranks.
Yep. And then her dad built me a few cars and stuff like that.
Each year you try to improve what you've got. It's not that we have the money just to go and buy.
No, we learned how to take care of our stuff and fix stuff. I mean, I don't like beating dents out. I still don't like beating dents out. Her brother was constantly putting bodies on his car, and I'm like, I could use the same body for 2 years, and it's just this that way. And I could go borrow. We raced for points all the time, and like I said, at Putnamville, they ran 2 nights a week, sometimes 3, different classes and stuff. And if I break something. And back then, I don't know how many other tracks did that, but at Lincoln Park, you had to have your car and had to be registered. And if I drove your car, I had to put my number on your car. I couldn't just go and sign in and drive that car. So we had plates made up. We could borrow somebody's car and put their numbers on.
Like a magnetic.
I didn't have a problem borrowing somebody's car because when they got it back, it was usually better than when I got it. So that was kind of a nice thing.
And if we blew a motor back then, we went to the junkyard.
Mike's Auto Wrecking here in town. He raced with us for years, and he owns a salvage yard. And we'd blow a motor up on Friday night and go to the junkyard and get a motor on Saturday, bring it home, put a 4-barrel intake on, and race it Saturday night. You can't do that now.
No, not anymore.
Yeah,
No.
not at all. So,
well, Peggy, you're pretty busy at the racetrack. What is it that you do?
I like working in the tower. I've actually done everything at a racetrack except for flag. Work in the pit shack, the admission shack, count money, pay off, transponders,
race
receivers, racer's pass.
push truck for a while when your dad had his push
When
truck.
we had sprint cars, I did push truck. Didn't have any problems with that. Worked the infield several times. Just a little bit of everything. I like doing stuff. It keeps me busy. Plus, I don't have to listen to the boys argue and fuss and carry on. Keeps me out of that. And I get to watch all the racing. And I like going around and visiting because a lot of the tracks anymore, it doesn't feel like family. The bigger you get, the less family it seems. And I like Charleston and stuff because it does seem like a lot of family, and you can go and everybody will say hi, bye. You get mad and you get people that's upset, but it's usually done and over with.
So what got that started for you to sort of leave the pit area and start working at the racetracks? When did that start?
Billy Shipman did, didn't he?
Billy Shipman. We were at Terre Haute with the sprint cars. And I disagreed with his scoring when he was working with USAC. And back in the day, believe it or not, I was a little bit high strung.
Mouthy.
Yeah, mouthy. So I went up in the tower after him in Terre Haute. And
we was more apt to get in fights at Racetrack with her at the racetrack than we was with anybody else doing anything. So.
But when I went up to the tower, he told me, he says, if you think you can do better, here's a sheet of paper, here's a pencil, you help score with me. So I did. I did the sprint feature and stuff, which at Terre Haute, it's long track. You have time to do. But then he rechecked my score sheet and found out that I did. So then he says, well, I'm sorry. He says, maybe you were right and I was wrong. So then from there, every time they needed help scoring or whatever, or Jimmy with UMP.
And then when Sam started the MSCS.
Sam Stockton started the MSCS. I scored for there. And then at Putnamville, I did transponders and scored there.
The Putnamville deal was when Dave Allison took the place over.
Yeah.
He really didn't have no help. And through the grapevine, he found out she knew how to do that stuff. So that kind of went to
Joe
that.
Chambers.
Yeah. And then when Joe Spiker took it over, he just kept her on and did the same thing like that too. So.
Yeah. And a lot of the drivers too. I know a lot of the drivers because we've raced every type of race car except for Silver Crown. We've done the street, we've done the modified, the IMCA cars, the sprint cars, the Crate Lake models. So everything but Silver Crown car, that's the only car we haven't had. Knocking on wood.
No.
So, Kenny, your whole family grew up in racing. Where do you think your love for the sport came from? Was it ingrained in you?
No, just the competitiveness, the camaraderie, the racing around, learning how to work on cars, just stuff like that. We played basketball and stuff, never in high school or nothing like that, but this was just something we could go do, and it was just fun. Didn't spend a bunch of money at that time to do it, so
that's a little different.
And like I said, and then you learn how to fix your stuff. So there's still stuff that I won't mess with, but Kenny wants to go, oh, just take it apart. It's already broke. Well, yeah, but if it's broke worse, it don't matter. Take it apart. So
your dad raced when you were young, and then later he would become an official.
Mm-hmm.
Do you remember what that was like when he stopped racing and became an official?
Yeah. He let me race Sweet Owen, which is a track on 46. He wouldn't let me go to Lincoln Park. Kept saying that Buck Arnold at the time owned the place, and Buck didn't want me racing there with him flagging. So the first feature I ever was going to win, he black flagged me coming to the checkered flag, my dad.
Why?
Because my trunk lid came up. And he black flagged anybody else, so I was no different.
Your first ever race you were going to win, your first ever feature.
Coming to the checkered flag, and the trunk lid came up.
And he black flagged
me.
And I was.
It wasn't, Mom was worse than that, but yeah, me and Grandpa laughed about it all the way home.
How old were you?
15.
Yeah, so what was that? Obviously,
we were just dating at that time.
We
weren't even dating at that time yet when that race happened. It was another one.
Oh my goodness!
But yeah, black flag me. She was hot. So because before if somebody else was done that, he would have went ahead and let him go. They would have won.
Okay.
This was back when the flagman still had all the authority of what was going on the racetrack. And that's what he said. He goes, I wasn't going to let him win and then have to listen to somebody say, well, you black flagged this guy for it, which he hadn't. He'd let him go. Yeah. But he also scored before he ever started flagging. So, but yeah, it was just one of them things. I had to learn to do it all over again. And if you could run into me and I just got to the next corner and just touched you, I'd get black flagged in. Mm-hmm. So I learned to race without running into people. Okay. So that's why I said you have this respect on the racetrack. If somebody keeps racing you this way and this way, you let it go for a while, but you eventually get fed up with it. And then if something clicks and it's like, okay, my turn, but I'll go for a long time before I ever pay you back. But
how long was it before you won your next feature?
Later that year at Putnamville. But back to that, he kept telling me he wouldn't let me go to Putnamville because Buck didn't want me there. Okay. We was up there one night on a Sunday and Buck's like, how come you don't bring your car up here? And I said, well, Dad says you don't want me up here racing because he's flagging. He goes, I never once said that. So I got to go putt those, and I got to race 3 nights a weekend after that. So yeah, so that's just how it.
I got you.
So didn't have time to go running around. You working on the race car through the week. So
yeah. Well, he even would holler at me because I used to drive powder puff all the time, and they would put me in the car, and I would slide out of the seat, and I'd have my hand hold on. Oh, he stopped the middle of the race and came down and chewed me out because I had my hand hanging on the outside of the car.
You know, you got to remember when we started racing, we had bucket seats and just a single old lap belt racing a T-shirt. Yeah. So then once you got the first seat that actually held ribs, and it's like, hell, you're not holding yourself up no more. Right. This is great. Right. So you didn't have that yeah.
So as an official, Peggy, obviously that caused a little friction in the family. As an official, how's that been for you over the years?
Sometimes it's really difficult. But if I say something, I stand by it. And I can be wrong. I mean, I say
we've had conversations coming home. I say what I see.
Stuff, sometimes coming from Charleston to Terre Haute is cold-hearted.
It's not near as bad there as it was coming from the other direction.
Yeah. And it'll be like, what were you watching? And it's like, well, this is what I'm watching because you didn't see all of it that led up to that. So yeah, sometimes it gets hard, but I don't really go visiting with a lot of drivers simply because, and this is my own belief, when I'm up there scoring, I don't care. He's my husband. I don't care if it's my son. I don't care if it's you. What I see on the track and what I see is what I feel right is the way I'm going to judge it. I don't well, he's my husband, he's going to get, this, or, the Schwartz can do this or that. That's not the way I do it. It's like, if I see it, I'm going to tell you. For instance, you and I have had different conversations about things that I think the call was wrong or the way to do. But I always try to, if I do it this way in one class, it should be done the same way in the other class. All the classes, you have a set of rules, and they all should go to the same. So, but I try, and there's times when I get back to the pits from being up in the tower for the first 10, 15 minutes, I hear from.
But back to that where she said she likes racing. About October, she's done. I got to beg her to go some other places. It's like, hey, we found this place. And it's easier to do it if it's someplace she hadn't been. It's like, hey, let's go this place.
I like new tracks.
But
About October, after working almost every Saturday throughout the summer, you're about done for it.
Right.
No, we raced clear up until the week before Thanksgiving this year, I think. Yeah, we went to Indianapolis to Circle City and raced.
Okay.
So.
I'm not a cold weather person. At all. So when the weather gets cold and gets down, my bibs come on and my sweatshirts. Yeah. But I can stand heat better than I can cold. And that's like this year too. I haven't let you know, but
here we go. Breaking news.
Breaking news. On Friday nights, I'm going to work at Coles County.
Oh, okay.
Be up there. I've never met Brian, but he's reached out, and I've talked to him several times about working in his tower and helping do some stuff. And Tanner Shipman, his dad, Johnny, flags there and stuff. And then they're going to race the B-mods, which I know, all the B-mods and some of the sprint cars. So I've never been to the track, never seen the track, but looking forward to working there on Friday night and then Charleston on Saturday.
Well, it's a new track. You like new tracks?
I like new tracks.
For a little while.
Yeah, for a little while. I told you we would see.
Well, you guys have been doing this for a very, very long time. Give us one of your best memories, most fond memories, either one of you or both of you. Something that comes to mind.
It's really hard to say.
There's
too much you've seen. I mean, both good and bad, so it's really hard to say.
I've seen a lot of little kids.
Yeah, I've seen kids grow up that now race.
So. I mean, Tony Stewart when he started out, the stepdad and stuff. Josh Burton, he was like a son to me. When that all happened and stuff, that really was bad. Chase Briscoe, his dad Kevin and I, they came and talked to me. They said, what do you think about, everybody's telling me he's too young to race. And it's like, you know, my son, they said he was too young to race. If they're in that race car, they have fire suits on, they have helmets, they have seat belts. I know where he's at every day of the week.
Actually, I think it's safer than a ball and stick thing.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
plus, you learn that how bad that car folds up with bars around you. You kind of slow down driving on the street and pay a little more attention. So,
yeah. And you know where they're at. So I never had to worry about a tavern or a bar or him chasing women, because I always knew I could find him either at the junkyard or in the garage or out looking for parts.
Well, if you get kids hooked on racing, they won't have time for drugs and alcohol.
Nope.
No.
They won't have any money either.
I never had to worry about any of that with either of my kids. Yeah. Now, the stuff they drug home, that's a different story.
Yeah, he's a hoarder.
My son is a hoarder. Yep. But he can tell you where everything
is. And our
is.
grandson don't even care about racing.
Really?
You know, nope. He don't want nothing to do with it. Like I said, Ronnie, his other grandpa, raced. He don't want nothing to do with it. Now he has started talking about drag racing. We hope we can break him to that. But yeah.
Well, when we were kind of digging into your past a little bit, trying to learn more about you, you have raced, like she said, almost everything. Mm-hmm. Why all the different stuff? Most guys pick a line and stay down the straight.
Well, because when we started out, we ran what Thunder cars are called, and
that's what we could afford.
Factory stock now, and that's what we could afford. But we won a lot. I mean, like at Putnamville, that one year in '82, we won 10 features in a row, and it only paid $75 to win. But right after we got married, I went and raced a race at Sweet Owen. I couldn't get off. I had traded a guy hours at work. I was working at a service station, and we went there. We ended up winning that night. That was actually probably the first big feature we won, if you want to call it that. It paid $200. But we won from the tail because we couldn't get the car running earlier in the night. We finally figured out what we did wrong, something stupid. But anyway, we won that night, and we got $200. Went to work on Saturday or Sunday, got off my 2:00 time to go race Sunday night. On Monday, the boss came in and goes, "Hey, you got to decide if you want to race or you want to work here." And I'm like, "Well, you let all these college guys take off when they want. So I had somebody to cover my shit. Well, you just got to decide." Yeah, I think I'm going to race. So I raced all summer. She was still working. So we'd race Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. At the end of that summer, we was way ahead on our mortgage payments and everything else just from racing, and we wasn't tearing nothing up and this and that. Well, it got to the 83. I got a job over here at the hospital where she worked at, and then we did all that. And then 84, the purses went up a little bit, but not much. And guys were tearing stuff up left and right, and they ran figure eight at Putnamville. And on a Sunday night, I told her, "I'm going to run figure eight tonight." She's like, "Why?" So what pays more? So we won that night with that. So it was like, hell, we just do that every Sunday night too. So we'd run both the oval and then run the figure eight and just go that way. I made sure I
had life insurance on it.
But anyway, back to what you asked, it got to the point we could load up and go race at Charleston, or we go Brownstown, Indiana, or something like that. I hate that place, but anyway, go to Brownstown, Illinois, and people knew who you was. So you go and you be competitive and stuff. Then it got to the point everybody thought you was cheating. If you're winning, you're cheating. And we just got to the point, it's like, we got to do something different. So then we went to a sportsman car over here in Indiana, and we did that. We won okay in that. And then
IMCA.
Stepped back up. And then we started running Charleston again on Saturday nights when they were IMCA modifieds, and we dragged two cars back and forth for a while. And that was one neat thing about Charleston. We was over there one night, and her dad had a heart attack at home, and we were sitting in a lineup shoot. And they come up and they said, "Hey, you need to go to the phone in the pit shack," or not the pit shack, but the concession. I'm like, "Why? You just need to go." So I went and answered the phone. It was one of our buddies. "Hey, Peg's dad had a heart attack. You got to come." So loaded the car up, got a police escort back to the state line from the Coles County Sheriff. And then he radioed to his so we could keep going. So it was like, hey, we just
took real good care of us.
Wow.
We were an outcast over there for a while. We won the feature trophy dash. And I gave the trophy at that time, I didn't know, but it was Randy Smizer. Okay. And at that point, we were like one of the regulars there.
Once you did that, you were accepted.
Yeah. So, but anyway, back to all the why we changed classes. Are you cheating when you're winning and stuff? And in '94, we drove a couple people's cars, Bob's car, Marlene and them. And I wanted a sprint car. Couldn't afford a sprint car. So I told her, I said, I'm done. I don't want to race no more. Come home from work. Bob came up and he goes, hey, we got to go look at this. And we're like, where are we going? We drove over here in town and he goes, we got to take that home with us. And it was a sprint car. So that's how that started.
Well, he says, if I buy it, you drive it.
Yeah.
So were there sprint cars at tracks you were racing your Thunder car at?
Yeah, Putnamville, Bloomington.
Okay.
Yeah,
okay.
yeah, Harrigan.
Yeah.
So.
But we had no idea what we were doing.
No, hell, we didn't know anything about what anything was. Everybody come to the house when they knew we got it because we was going to push it off to start it. And I just kept pushing it off until everybody left because I didn't want anybody to see you start it and do something stupid while you started it. So,
Mike Farrar helped us on that.
yeah. And actually, not the Kevin Thomas that races USAC now. It was actually Kevin Thomas.
Oh, okay.
They're not even related, but he raced sprint cars at Putnamville and he had a driving school. And Bob Kinser, Steve's dad, he knew my dad, Bob did. So they kind of helped us out a little bit. Told us what to do. And Kevin told us then, he goes, I'm going to tell you everything to do to the car. I'm not going to lie to you. He said, all these other guys will lie to you. And Augie O'Banion, we met Augie by accident. We didn't know what a barrel valve was on the sprint car motor. And the throttle was hanging up. So me and a buddy of mine, we took the breather off and we're messing with it. We move all this stuff. And it's like, So we went and asked Augie, it's like, hey, this thing's been sticking and this is what's going on. He goes, oh, you shouldn't have touched that. So he went and borrowed some tools and got it all set, and then it's kind of helped us from there.
Well, and KT came to the house. He said, get a notebook.
Yeah.
And he came to our house.
Yeah, I was ready to give up on that. The first night we raced, we made the feature. Okay. Went to a race at Brownstown, Indiana, first time in a sprint car. It steered real funny.
Wing or non-wing?
Non-wing.
Okay.
It steered real funny. I went and asked Kevin. I said, hey, this thing steers stupid. And he goes, well, take the steering and leave the axle and lay it back. He said, that'll help. Or stand it up. He said, that'll help. It didn't make it no easier. So we ran the heat race. Ran the semi, and I asked him before the semi, I'm like, this thing don't steer no different when the engine's running or when you're pushing me through the pits. He tried to tell us how to take this power steering pump apart at the racetrack. I was like, I'm not doing that. So we raced it all night like that.
Right.
And we made the feature. I don't know where we finished that. So I thought, this is not going to be that bad. Well, then we didn't make another feature for the next month and a half, no matter where we went. And I told her, I was like, this sucks. I'm done. I'm ready to quit. Well, Kevin come that night and he helped us change it. And nothing was wrong with the car. We just couldn't figure out what was going on. And Ray Morgan that lives here in town or used to live here in town, he raced. And we was at Bloomington one night and his dad says, you don't like that car feeling like it's tipping over, do you? I'm like, no, Dave Pepperack told me that if that thing ever feels like it's going to tip over, it's not lying to you. It's going to tip over. So I said, it's just something you don't feel comfortable with. So he goes and resets the car and puts tilt in the car. And then Paul, a buddy of mine, is like, hey, our car looks like everybody else's car now. Well, then it was like a totally different car when you went on the racetrack. And then we just finally ran out of motor because it was tired at that point. And we took it and put a wing on it and went to Terre Haute at the end of the year. And we left a bunch of parts on the action track.
You just keep learning.
Yeah.
Mahala Kinser, she's at Putnamville. She would say, I'd say, well, what's this or what's that? She says, come here, honey. She says, let me teach you. And she would sit and
I caught Bob in a heat race one night or in a feature and he was struggling. He was actually pretty good that night. And I went in the corner and he moved down and I hit him. And I'm thinking, I remember what everybody says about Bob. He got a cigar in his mouth and he's a bricklayer. So I'm like, I go down and talk to him. So I went down to see something to him and he's like, I'll be right with you in a minute. Walked around me to go talk to somebody else that he'd already had a problem with. And then he come back and he said, what do you need? And I'm like, I'm sorry about what happened. He goes, I'm the dumbass that changed my line on you. He goes, not your fault. But then when he got back to Bloomington, he told my dad, he goes, I think I scared your kid. He said, he come down to talk to me. And it's like, yeah, but that's just part of it. So
tell me more about this figure 8 racing. You won. Doesn't that seem a little sketch? Peggy, how was that watching him race?
I said I had his life insurance paid. We used the same car.
Yeah, same car.
And luckily he timed it enough
figure 8
to
racing, for anybody that doesn't know, is you race in the shape of an 8 and cars are crossing each other and they often hit.
Yeah.
You drive backwards.
You don't drive backwards, but yeah.
You go into turn 4 and 3 and 2
you learn after you do it a couple times, they learn who's going to stop and who's not stopping. Dirt.
So it's basically chicken at the X.
Pretty much.
Yeah. And you won that race.
I won that race, and then we ended up winning the points for that deal too, and stuff like that. Oh yeah.
I think that year we ended up winning the street stock and the figure 8.
Yeah, that was at 84.
The championship.
So. What cars has he raced that you really wished he hadn't, or you really weren't a fan of?
right?
She wasn't a fan of the sprint cars when we got it.
Yeah.
Because it was like, we came out.
I didn't understand them.
Yeah, but we came out of the stock car deal, and everybody kind of, thumbed your nose up at stock car guys getting in sprint cars and stuff.
Right.
But then we just got to where we made friends with everybody like that, and now when we go, people that still run sprint cars, hey, how you doing? And then we went and drove one this year. They're like, you remember how to do that? And I'm like, I don't know. And,
how long had it been? You ran a sprint car this year. How long had it been since you've been in?
14 years.
14.
Yeah.
How did you do?
We missed the feature. Well, see, that's another story. It was steel block sprint cars mixed in with the full blown 410s. Okay. And the first night we ended up getting second, if you want to call it that, in the steel block, but we missed the show. We was 2 cars out or 1 car out. So then, and it was okay. It was fun. And why we got rid of the sprint cars is because my back, I get up on Sunday mornings, I couldn't walk. And I tore up motors that week. And then Johnny Johnson calls, hey, we still got this old car if you want to drive it. Nobody wants to drive it. Dad don't like it. His kid didn't like it. So we raced it. And he goes, you want me to take your seat out at the end of the night? And I'm like, I'll come and get it. You might want to do this again. So then he called me back a week or so later, and we went back, and we won the steel block part of it that night, and then finished 10th in the regular sprint car feature.
Oh, okay.
So running against aluminum motors, but we only had 20 cars that night, so it was easier to make the show, but we still outran other cars.
Well, and the steel block class is more affordable.
Yeah, for the most part.
For the most part than the other, and but I'm still stock.
Huh? Oh, yeah.
I still like my modified.
No, see, she's making stories up now because a year ago November, I had that crate late model for sale, and I'm playing online, and I find a sprint car in Georgia, almost to Atlanta. Yeah. And I called this guy, and we're messaging back and forth and asking if he'd be interested in trading for this late model. And he first had sent some pictures, so we sent pictures of it and stuff. And he called me back or sent me a message back. He goes, I don't know anything about that. I'm not interested. But he gave me a price for this car. So I told her the price, and she's like, what's the matter with it? I said, he said it's racing. You can go race it tonight. So that was on a Wednesday. I get home on Friday after work, and she's like, are we going to Georgia?
I had everything packed.
And I'm like,
knew he was going
I haven't talked to the guy. So I had to call the guy and get information where he lived at and stuff. So we drove to Georgia and picked a trailer. We didn't tell Kenny or nobody that we was going to go get this thing. And me, her, and the dog drove down and got it, came back and unloaded it on Sunday. And then he pushed it off. And it's like, hey, it does run. So, but we didn't even hear it run or nothing other than what the video the guy sent me. So yeah, we've got a 305 sprint car at home that we had all last summer.
Oh, okay.
That we messed with and was going to race it, not race it. And then when the deal came with Johnny, she's like, well, go drive Johnny's car and see if you really want to do this. So
if you really want to,
I was more concerned about his back.
So how did that?
Well, like I said, I ran that Saturday at Putnamville. Sunday we went and worked on Brent's garage. Didn't bother me. Then the next week we went and ran the modified again at Charleston. My back hurt worse after I got done running the modified than it did that sprint car. So I don't know why, but because you said totally different in both of them.
Yeah.
So. Yeah. But yeah, it didn't. And then we went back and ran again with Johnny's car and did that night. And then we took this 305 and took the wing off of it and went to Spoon River the 4th of October and found out that little 305 don't work with them steel blocks because that little thing's a turd without. And then we decided to go ahead.
And that's why on the way home, it was a good thing there wasn't a turtle
that was Circle City. So yeah,
it wouldn't have been able to get out of the way.
In my defense, we didn't change anything on the car. It's still got the wing front axle in it. It's got the wing bird cages and stuff. I just wanted to go see if the car was going to run.
So she wasn't impressed.
Nah.
It didn't crash it. It didn't crash it. And then when we took it to Circle City, yeah, it absolutely was pathetic at Circle City. So yeah, I told her when we left, it's like we either got a different car or sell this car, one or the other, because this was awful.
It couldn't get itself out of a wet paper sack.
Yeah, it was bad.
So you guys mentioned earlier that Kenny Jr. races, and obviously these two have raced before together on the same track. You're an official. How does all that work? I mean, you said a while ago they butt heads from time to time. From a mom and a wife and an official, you're like 3 people sitting there watching this whole thing unfold. What's that experience been like?
She usually just walks away.
Yeah, I usually just walk away. It used to be hard when he was younger, and I knew what he would do, but sometimes I didn't know what he would do. But then as you watch him race, you know what they're going to do during certain situations. Sometimes I agree with what they do. Sometimes I don't. Usually I just, I've gotten to the age now where I let them take care of their own because, you know, they're the ones in the car. I can't control that car no more than I control what happens. All I can control is when I get in that truck on the way home, what happens in that truck and what is said.
When your son started racing as a mom, was that a lot different than watching your husband race, or what was that like for you?
It was, in a way, but he was always so daring, jumping four-wheelers, him and his buddies, there was 3 of them together, and they were always jumping something or building mini bikes with no brakes.
Yeah, everything he builds has no brakes.
Brakes are optional.
That's it. Brakes are optional.
Putting him in the car with a seatbelt and a helmet, that was the safest way.
Did you ever want him to not race? Did you ever try to stop him?
No.
If you let him kind of, that's what
I would never stop anybody unless they weren't really good, and then I'd have to tell them they need to think about a different sport.
And I'm guessing you wouldn't struggle with having to tell somebody that.
No. There's been several that the talent is not there.
Right.
They try really hard. Sometimes they get better, sometimes they don't.
Mm-hmm.
What I've seen is the ones that don't get any better, eventually they get tired of it and they realize that it's not what they want.
We've had a lot of buddies that just jumped into it and they'll do it for 2 months or 2 years, 3 years and realize how much money they spent and they're not getting any better. And then they just quit or got something other interest to do and stuff like that. So, but you got to be committed. I mean, you can't go in at half.
It's a commitment. You gotta, every weekend we're at a racetrack.
I'm lazy now, though. I wash the car, and that's about it. I'll check nuts and bolts, and I'm not going through all the others.
Seems to fall off, though.
No, I make sure of that it's not going to break, but I ain't spending all week working on it.
Okay.
I'm not taking everything out every week.
Well, and we're lucky that Junior will work on it, and then Jack helps with us and stuff. So we do get help on that quite a bit. And there's times that Junior will set the car up and he'll tell his dad, you might want to take a extra lap because he's done something that he doesn't know that he's done. And
So being from Indiana, obviously you started racing in Indiana. What drug you over across the border to start racing in Illinois? When did that start?
Oh, back then it was just find places to race. When we first started going to Charleston, they still had guardrails in the turns all the way around. And Danville, Illinois was the same way. So we wanted to race. So you just go race whenever. And then when we started coming back to Charleston, it's just because some shit happened at Putnamville that never should have happened. If the promoter would have done something instead of telling them you guys just got to race that way and wouldn't do anything about it. So it's things went down and decided
the sad thing is some people like seeing wrecks, but until they realize it's their car and the parts and the cost of replacing those parts, seeing wrecks and fights and stuff, it might bring more tickets in the stand. And
you just don't.
But
it seems like any track you go into Illinois, you don't really have that problem.
No.
I don't know why, but you can come to these tracks in Indiana and there's people fighting from 3 years ago. It just don't make no sense because I don't know. I think it's just something they do. I got one buddy that calls it a Peyton place, that they just they thrive for that. But it's not just one class; it's every class. So it's. You hate to bash anything about our sport, but that's part of it. It's like you're a promoter. Me and you've had that conversation before. If I keep causing a problem at your racetrack every week, I don't care how many people I bring, you need to give me a vacation or hey, you're not coming back for a while. Instead of coming and say, hey, we'll see you next week. You guys can continue on doing what you're doing. Right. No. So
at some point, your bad behavior runs off the cars.
Yeah.
Causes more grief.
Yeah. And quite frankly, the way the world is nowadays, I'm really surprised nobody's not been shot or something at any racetrack the way some of this stuff happens. It's stupid.
Yeah, it's kind of scary.
Yeah.
And it's nerve-wracking.
Yeah.
Yeah. You said when you first started coming to Charleston, you were an outsider, so things were a little rough until you finally bridged
It
the gap.
really wasn't rough, and I don't mean this in a bad way, but when we brought these Indiana cars to Charleston and raced, it was almost like running a factory stock versus one of your street stocks.
Mhm.
And we had the street stock and they had the factory stock. And we would call, Larry Martin had the track at that time, and we'd call and make sure our cars were legal before we went. And then you go over there, and then somebody start throwing a fit.
Oh,
And
wow.
it's not a trash talk or anything, but usually these racetracks, when you go somewhere, it's never the guys that are fast or complaining. It's the guys that run down at the bottom because you just took another spot from them. So, but Jerry Johnson that owned TCA over there, once we started going over there and he started seeing how our cars and stuff was, that's when he started building all them super fast cars that he started putting out of that place. And then instead of going over there knowing you had a chance to win, you're going over there hoping you'd be a top 5 car because everybody picked their game up and stuff. So
When you went over there, you were pretty successful.
The first time we went, our car was purple and pink on it. And
we had a lot of comments about the paint.
A lot of people probably don't remember Sonny Trosper that raced there in Danville, Illinois.
I've seen that name.
Well, Sonny and his boys kind of had problems with people too. And they quit going over there, got thrown out or whatever. And they come to Putnamville. We got acquainted with them. And they convinced us to come over there and race one night when Putnamville got rained out. So we went, we pull in there, and they're kind of parked by themselves, nobody around them. And we pull in there, we just pull in and we start unloading our stuff. And everybody's looking at us like, you guys are parking in the wrong place. Well, we raced all night, didn't get anything done. Nobody ran into the car, no nothing. Well, a couple of weeks later, we went back. Sonny and him wasn't there. I didn't have a straight place on my car when we got done. And we came back and they're laughing and they're like, we wasn't with you this week. Like, what's that mean? They're like, we whip everybody's ass over there. So they don't want us to, they don't cause any problems when we're there. It's like, well, why didn't you tell me that before we went back on our own? But that was just part of it. You know, you learn things like that. So,
yeah. What was your experience like when you went over to Charleston? You were not working at the track at that time.
It was very, like he said,
it was relaxed.
It's relaxed. I would be so tense and so stressed because I knew some of the stuff that was happening at the other track.
Oh, okay.
Nobody would believe me.
The behind-the-scenes drama.
Behind-the-scenes drama.
Jim hit her up towards the end of that year because he had that topless modified race or something, and said, "Could you help us score?" And she's like, "Yeah." And I told her, "Did you realize you got to climb up that ladder on the front side by the flag stand, don't you?" And she's like, "No, I don't." "Yeah, that's the only way you can get up there." Well, it rained out that night, so she didn't have to do it. And then the next year is when Jim asked her if she'd want to help. When
we
he put the
set
thing
the
up on the
infield.
back. No, not the top. When he built the back up on the back side, so you could go up there. And then Jim got sick, and then Larry took it over, and then Larry kept her. And
but you did sit in the infield and score
for a topless race. Yeah,
for a topless, yes.
Yeah. What was that like?
It was very interesting when you're sitting. First of all, when you sit on the back straightaway and watch the race, it's totally different sitting on the front straightaway and watching the race. I mean, it is, you don't think so, but it is.
Yeah, you get two totally different views.
And sitting in the infield and trying to score, it was really tough because cars go faster than what you realize. At least when you're up in the stand.
Everybody needs, if ever sat and watched a race, needs to go in the infield once and watch a race. Because you just can't believe the cars, how much different they are. Yeah. Being inside the racetrack versus outside the racetrack.
They seem, and that's like, you know, you hear, well, you scored this wrong, you scored that. Well, when I started scoring, there was no transponders. Right. There was no electrical equipment. You did by eye pencil. You made mistakes. You correct them.
You used to have somebody standing on the racetrack with a chalkboard writing the lineup when you went by and you're trying to see who you're supposed to be behind.
Yeah, so, I mean, it was all old school. With as fast as
some of it was better now. You know, some of it was better.
What was better?
Yeah. The way as a racer, I like qualifying. As a fan, you want to see draws. Because Charleston does it. The fastest guy starts on the pole of every race. You know, 1, 2, 3, 4. Some of these other tracks they invert 4. It makes for a little better racing, only if the racetrack entices it. If it's raceable, you know, if it's not a one lane around the top. Like we watched the sprint cars last night from Florida, and it was one lane around the top. There was no passing. So if it's a racy racetrack, yeah, you'd like to see an inversion a little bit. But when we first started racing, the fast qualifier go up and draw a number, and you could be either a 0 or a 20, and that's how they started the feature. But they had slow heat, medium heat, fast heats. If you was in the slow heat, say you went out and sandbagged is what they called it then. If you went out and won that slow heat race and you ran a half second faster than you qualified, you was disqualified. So that's why you had guys racing in fast heats, slow heats, and medium heats, but they also locked in the top so many cars, like top 18 qualifiers were locked in, kind of like you did at one race last year, year before. And then they run a semi and everybody come out of that to finish the deal up. But there was several races we won at Putnamville and other places that we started 18th because you learn how to pass cars. That's the thing. And that's the funny part. Still to this day, guys that qualify good, if they go by a blind draw, they usually finish around the back because they haven't figured out how to pass anybody.
It's easier. It's easier. I don't want to say it's easy, but it's easier to win up front.
Yeah, than it is starting the back. Yeah. But you learn how to pass cars. You learn how to save your stuff to get to that point.
And some of the tracks, if you won so many races in a row,
Bloomington, if you won,
to start like 10th.
If you won 2 races in a row, you had to start no better than 10th the next time. Okay. And if you won from the 10th, you still starting 10th the next week again. Yeah. And they did that in every class.
How well did the drivers receive that?
It was, some hated it, some liked it. One guy lost the national points and modifieds because he got penalized like that for 3 weeks in a row because he could still win. And then he didn't lose by many points, but he still lost. Perrigan, when we had sprint cars and ran there, they did a deal. Every sprint car ran a feature. Okay. So there was nice. We had 60 sprint cars down there. He'd run 3 features. They only paid $500 to win, $100 to start. But if you had ever won a feature in a sprint car, you had to start in the back of the features regardless. And then once you won twice at his track that year, you was in the back the rest of the year. And that's just the way it was set up, though.
Well,
and everybody,
the newer drivers, a little bit more opportunity.
Yeah, I could see the pros.
Instead of the
so
ones,
I mean, people get tired of seeing the same people win all the time. I don't care what anybody says. But like I said, back to that, as a racer, I want to qualify so I can kind of control my own deal. But as a fan, you like seeing draws because it does move cars around and stuff like that. And, and some of those like that, some guys has raced for years and never won a heat race.
Yeah.
So if you do vary that around a little bit, they're like, hey, we want a heat or something. And then and even Charleston, when we started going over there, when Jim had it, the heat race winners, you didn't automatically start on the pole if you won the first heat. He had you draw sitting in the lineup sheet before you went on the track for the top. If there's 4 heat races, those 4 guys drew. So you kind of like you did for the 38 special when we had to pull out there and draw to see where we started in that dash. So So I mean, it's stuff that
just a way to mix it up.
Yeah, and you got to try to figure out some ways to get new fans in just for that. Everybody gets tired.
The one thing that I don't like is going to a track and they say we're going to start at 7 o'clock, and at 7 o'clock the track's not ready, and you're still working.
But that's a twofold deal because Tommy Helfrich at Hofstadt, he qualifies and then he works the track and stuff, but he will not start the race until it's advertised at 7:15 because, like he said, if I say we're going to start at 7:15. They know to show up at 7:15. If I start that race at 7:05, when they get here, somebody's going to be mad because they missed a race.
They missed the start time, and the start time was at 7.
So I mean, it's a twofold deal. It's kind of a fine line. So,
well, you've had a very long, lustrous. I would call your career successful. Looking at the statistics that we looked at, and I'm not going to bore everybody with all of them, but from my standpoint, I'd say you have had a successful career and continue to.
Yeah.
When you look back on your career, what are your thoughts? How do you perceive it? I know nobody wants to sit and talk about how great they think they are, but still, when you sit and think about it, what are your thoughts?
I think this year you were the most surprised.
Yeah. We won the Sportsman deal for the modifieds at the UMP banquet.
Yeah,
that was a real shock because I didn't even when he said that he talked where I finished in the points in Illinois and in Indiana. And then in the nation. And then he said, I was also the Sportsman something of the year. And I'm like, I didn't hear what he said. When I got up there, Sam shook my hand. I'm like, I think you got something wrong there. And he goes, no, we got it right. And I'm like, okay. And I turned around and walked back off because I didn't know to give a speech or anything because I didn't actually hear what they said until I got back. But
2025 dirt car Modified Sportsman of the Year award. Not just for modified, but for the whole dirt car.
No. Well, for the dirt car, but they give one for the late model and for the.
Oh, okay.
Blaze Burwell got it for the late model.
Sportsman of the Year. Yeah.
So.
Well, obviously, you were shocked at the banquet. Didn't know it was happening. When you look back on it, what did you think about it then?
I'm sure there's probably some people didn't think I deserved that, but
I was really shocked when he got it. It means a lot. I mean, we both try to help anybody. Mm-hmm. Sometimes he helps more than what I think he should. But in order to get racing to keep
it's a
going,
big family deal.
Got to
we can
help
be mad at
other.
each other tonight, but next week I'll loan you a part or come and borrow a part.
Yeah.
So I mean, it's part of it. So you make a lot of good friends.
Well, I've seen you many times, you and your son both many times, after the races are over, out there trying to coach somebody that's new to the sport or struggling or whatever. So, I didn't know anything about it until it was already awarded. And when I saw it was awarded, I felt it was very fitting and I felt like you had deserved it and had earned it over the years. So I was proud of you for that.
Yeah.
And then, Peggy, you were also awarded at the Charleston Speedway.
I was very shocked. I had tears in my eyes. That is the first time in 40 years that I've ever been acknowledged for doing anything at the racetrack. You get a lot of thank you and all of this. And to me, it's not always about money.
Sure.
That meant a lot to me, and I want to thank you and your families again, because that meant a lot to me, just to be recognized for what I do. As a wife and a mother, they don't see it, the packing the trailer, making sure the suit is clean and not smelling, and believe me, if you would go around him after the racing, you would know what I'm talking about. Jack's real good about getting the coolers. Junior's real good about making sure we have the different parts. It takes a lot. And just to be acknowledged at any level means a lot.
Well, I like to go watching the races too. So I don't leave when we're done. I sit there. Even if she wasn't working, we still sit there and we watch everything. Because them guys in them Hornets sometimes put on some of the best racing. So, but it's all that you just got to sit and watch the whole thing. I mean, it's and then the cool thing about, and not just because you're here, but at Charleston, when you leave, there's still people all congregating out front talking and stuff. Yeah. Some of these other racetracks, you throw your stuff in the trailer and off you go. The few times we did go to Putnamville this year, they've got groups like that over there. You can kind of hang around and talk and stuff. Nobody's in a hurry to go home. Yeah. So, but yeah, it's something
your
different.
Your award was very heartfelt. We've always appreciated everything that you've done at Charleston. You helped educate me. I bought a Speedway when I thought I knew something, and I found out really quickly I didn't know anything. And you've been very, very helpful, and we appreciate you.
Behind the scenes, like I said, I've worked in every area, push truck on up. And I even tell these guys sometimes, you don't realize, like, some of the money that goes out for insurance, your food costs to get this in, your tickets and things. And like when I go to the yard sales and I see something like the armbands and stuff, you don't really realize the cost of those things until you have to go buy them.
The biggest thing everybody's got to remember is this is a hobby. We're not doing this to get rich. We're doing it to have fun. It costs us money. It costs you money. So when you get something tore up, you usually get upset, especially with something stupid. But you just kind of learn the next week. It's like, hey, it's over. I've kind of learned though here anymore. You just wait till the next week and then go up and say, hey, what was you doing last week? Why did you do that? Because what you thought happened, then you watch something else and it'd be like, hey, that ain't how it went down. So
you watch a different angle on a video, or we get messages sent and say, hey, did you see this happen?
So you've talked already tonight that you're going to help score at Coles, and you are coming back to Charleston.
Yes, I am coming back to Charleston.
That recorded now. What are your plans for 26, King?
Well, we was planning on running that sprint car that we got quite a bit as the wing deal at Bloomington on Friday nights. But with her going to be working over there, that's probably going to go by the wayside for a little bit. So we'll still catch somewhere where we can go play with.
Although I got an alternative ride, and Courtney told me that she'd kick JR out of the JD out of one of the rooms, and I could have a spare bedroom. I just have to share with Jager.
There you go.
Yeah. So.
Well, before we wrap this up, do you have any sponsors? I usually, when it's just a driver interview, I allow the drivers to take time.
We really need to thank Scott McDaniel at Scott's Custom Color. He really helps a bunch for over the last 15 years, maybe.
Yeah.
And then we got a few other ones.
Family member.
VP Fuel helps us a little bit on fuel, but it's kind of the same for everybody around the area. And then what he does to the car and stuff all the time. Then Jack that goes and helps us.
Who's he?
Jack Johnson is a guy.
Junior.
Oh, Junior. Yeah. So
with the chassis and
he's planning on racing this year. Kind of hoped he didn't because it's easier that way he can keep working on stuff. I don't have to mess with it. But then Herd all the time. Jack usually fills the cooler up every Saturday, and I can count on him to go when we go all the time. So she gets started going at times, but it's easy. So
it just depends.
Well, I really appreciate you guys taking the time to do it. It's not doing this isn't in everybody's wheelhouse, but I've had a good time sitting here visiting with you. Before we end, is there anything that you need or want to say or wish we'd have asked or anything at all?
Do I have a tower?
And if there's any carpenters out there that want to help us, I could use some help getting that tower built.
The only thing I have a special request. Where I'm short-legged, where you step off in between the two tables, and you have the bleachers.
Oh yeah.
Put a little step there, a half step. Yeah.
Was there anything else you needed to add?
No, just that.
Tell me about Grandpa's truck.
No, I ain't telling you about Grandpa's truck.
I think you need to tell us about Grandpa's truck.
Oh yeah.
No, we don't. That was a bad deal. I was probably
15.
I've probably been 16. He bought me a race car, and my dad.
Your dad.
My dad.
Okay.
Once he seen that I was serious about this, he went ahead and bought us a car, and we had it up on the road. We lived on a side road, and we was getting it ready to go race on a Friday night at Perrigan, Indiana. And we come down the road, and the thing, something locked up in the car, braked something, and spun around, and I hit a tree about like that, and it totaled this race car. I mean, it folded it up, when it quit, the motor was clear over here in front of me. And I'm like, wow. So we're trying to figure out how to get it out of and it's down in the ditch, and we're trying to get it out before a cop shows up. And I have my little brother there helping me, and Dad's got a truck that ain't got 2,000 miles on it. Brand new truck. And we're trying to get this thing out of the ditch, and we ended up yanking the rear bumper completely off this truck to get the car out of the ditch. And needless to say, I went and stayed all night at my uncle's that night when Dad got home. So yeah, it wasn't good. So yeah. And we didn't get to race that car either. We killed that car before it ever got to the racetrack.
It didn't make it to the track.
It wasn't. We was already starting to slow down. So I mean, because it was coming up to a T road anyway, so you had to be slowing down, and it just something broke in the car, locked up or whatever. But
So if you were able to move the motor that far, it's probably good you didn't race it.
No. No, it folded her up pretty good. And Dad finally, after he calmed down and I paid for the bumper and stuff for his truck, he thought it was a good thing too that it probably did it there, because where we was going to go race that was Perrigan, Indiana, and they got a abutment coming off the turn. It's a wall, and it could have happened right there and smoked the wall with that car. So, but yeah, so
that's a good story. Well, thanks again. I really appreciate it, and I want to thank all of our fans for tuning in. Thank you two guys for sitting down. Hope you have a great 2026 season in all your endeavors. We also want to thank Bob Regg from Schaefer's Oil for sponsoring this interview. Be sure to get a hold of Bob and let him hook you up with the right product for all your lubrication needs. Be sure to like and share and subscribe to our YouTube channel. And don't forget that you can still find us on Facebook, Snapchat, and TikTok, as well as on our brand new website, thecharlestonspeedway.com. That's all for today. We hope to see you soon at a racetrack near you.
Bye, guys.
Bye.